I think that Brooklyn made the right decision in coming out with his statement. It became too much for him. His parents didn't protect him from the public eye.
Guys, it's official. The Beckham family's secrets have finally erupted, and they are built on control, lies, and everything you wouldn't expect from a football superstar. Subscribe now, because what we're about to reveal is a wedding dance that single-handedly destroyed a family that looked peaceful but was actually more toxic than most people's ex.
It's a real-life family drama that's become a worldwide obsession.
The Black Sheep. Brooklyn Beckham spent his entire life under a microscope as the eldest son of David and Victoria Beckham. Naturally, the pressure would be high because he was born into money, fame, and impossible expectations in a life that he really didn't own and was public since his childhood. According to Brooklyn, that glamorous world slowly turned into a cage that he found himself harder to escape for years. There were rumors circulating about tensions between Brooklyn, Nicola Peltz, and the Beckham family. Most people dismissed it as a normal family drama, which was quietly being handled behind closed doors. The silence was recently shattered when Brooklyn dropped a multi-part statement that stunned fans, insiders, and even the media outlet. This is probably the biggest controversy we had this year.
Tonight, a deeply personal family dispute playing out on a very public stage. In a series of Instagram stories Monday night, Brooklyn Beckham, the eldest son of soccer superstar David Beckham, and Spice Girls star turned fashion designer Victoria Beckham, accusing his parents of leaking one-sided stories about him and his wife Nicola Peltz to the press.
Brooklyn accused his parents of controlling his life, interfering in his marriage, and choosing what he called the brand Beckham over his personal happiness. The most shocking part? He made it clear he wanted no reconciliation. That single declaration has changed everything, because once Brooklyn drew the line, people started digging back to figure out exactly where it went wrong. The trail led straight to April 2022, in a wedding that was supposed to seal Brooklyn's fate forever and make him start a new chapter of his life. However, it was quite the opposite. The wedding. We all remembered the wedding of Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola Peltz that took place in Palm Beach, Florida. On the surface, it was unreal. There were over 500 guests, with celebrities everywhere, and a multi-million-dollar celebration that was hosted at the Peltz family's oceanfront estate, which had luxury imbued in every single aspect of it. Backstage, something else was cooking.
The Peltz did not want to wear a wedding dress designed by his famous mom, writing on Instagram, "My mom canceled making Nicola's dress in the 11th hour." Although the couple telling Vogue in 2022 that her custom Valentino look was in the works for a year.
Brooklyn says cracks were always spreading fast. According to him, the major first rupture was around the wedding dress, which was a moment that should have been pure excitement, not tension or something that would make him worried about the future. Brooklyn claims that Victoria Beckham initially offered to design Nicola's gown, only to back out late in the process. Nicola ultimately walked down the aisle in Valentino, but Brooklyn allegedly got a sudden shift in his emotions, which caused him emotional stress during a moment that was supposed to be joyful. The Beckham side never publicly addressed the situation, but there are mixed stories that are surfacing online. What looked small on the outside began to feel like something deeper. It was less about fabric and more about control. Then came the moment that is still being played in the headlines today, which is the wedding dance.
"She danced very inappropriately on me in front of everyone. I've never felt more uncomfortable or humiliated in my entire life."
The wedding dance. During the reception, Marc Anthony took the stage to perform what was scheduled and, according to Brooklyn, to be his first dance with Nicola. It was not only intimate, but it was also symbolic, and it took a sudden, sharp turn that he himself wasn't expecting at that time. Instead of calling Nicola to the stage, Marc Anthony reportedly paused and announced, "The most beautiful woman in the room," and then the victor, and then Victoria's, and then said Victoria's name out. According to Brooklyn, that single sentence turned upside down overnight. Brooklyn claims Nicola immediately ran from the room in tears. He even alleged that Victoria then joined him on the dance floor in front of hundreds of stunned guests, turning what was meant to be an intimate newlywed moment into something deeply uncomfortable and all about herself. He says he was even hit, instructed to place his hand on his mother's hip, while his bride was left crying off stage. Multiple witnesses later described the atmosphere as awkward and confusing, with the guests frozen and just unsure how to react. Brooklyn even insisted that moment would permanently stand as their wedding memories. He says that it hurt him so deeply that he and Nicola later chose to renew their vows privately, away from camera crowds and people that he didn't even like. The poor man was under so much pressure, and he wanted to get away from outside eyes just to reclaim what was taken from him. But for Brooklyn, it was never just dance. Frankly, who cares if the dance was ruined? They're still together, right? But it was something deeper for them. He described it as symbolic across boundaries, symbolic of control, and symbolic of his parents. In his own words, he said that he was being refused to fully step into his adult life by his own parents, who were meant to protect him. Name change. And if you thought the wedding drama was the biggest controversy, then you'd be wrong, because that was just the start. In his statement, Brooklyn went further, saying that before the wedding ever happened, his parents pressured him to sign right away to his own name. He claimed that this could have impacted his future business plans, his marriage, and even long-term family decisions. Not long after, Brooklyn quietly changed his public identity to Nicola Beckham, a move that now looks less like a style and more like a clear declaration of independence, going against his own parents. He also said that the family support slowly became conditional based on obedience rather than respect, which was painful for him because it would change everything going forward inside the Beckham household. Brooklyn claims that showing love slowly became conditional. It would only appear at the right event, post the right photos, and support the right brand moments. If he were to miss a fashion show, skip a public endorsement, or stop playing along with the image, the emotional distance would grow faster than the speed of a Bugatti. So what impact did this have on Brooklyn and Nicola? Before we reveal that, please subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the drama so far.
His parents didn't protect him from the public eye. He was in the public eye before he was even born.
Speaking out. Since releasing his statement, Brooklyn and Nicola have looked anything but shaken. The couple was recently photographed walking arm in arm in Malibu, relaxed, affectionate, and fully in sync, sending a clear message without even saying a word. Sources close to them say that the two actually feel relieved and even lighter now that everything has finally died down and is open. They also believe that speaking up lifted a massive emotional weight that they have been carrying quietly for years now. At 26, Brooklyn finally appears focused on building a calm life away from the constant glare of the spotlight. He has leaned into food content, running his own Cooking with Brooklyn series, launching his Cloud 23 hot sauce brand, and even investing in lifestyle projects that don't need his family's name to him. This doesn't look like a rebellion, but this is survival, a chance to reset his life and move away from the predators that have been preying on him since the very start. But what about David and Victoria? Have they spoken out? The silence from the Beckham side has been impossible to ignore. David and Victoria Beckham have not responded to Brooklyn's accusation. There was no public statement, rebuttal, or even visible attempt at reconciliation. Insiders also suggest that the family is devastating but choosing restraint, away, that the reaction would escalate an already explosive situation that has been revealed to the world. That silence hasn't stopped their fallout at all. According to reports, Brooklyn has blocked his parents on social media and requested that any communication moving forward would go through a legal challenge, which is a move that signals how deep the wound has become. His younger siblings have stayed publicly neutral so far, avoiding statements or even direct involvement. Still, the online behavior, careful time posts, song choices, captions, and even the silence itself have fueled non-stop speculation about the Beckham family's side.
What about those people who say his poor mum and dad, they just thought they were doing the best for their children? They clearly love their children, don't they?
I think doing the best for your children is protecting your children.
Brand Beckham and family Beckham. Now we must ask a much bigger question. Is it just emotional or is it existential? Because for decades, the Beckham brand has been built on unity, discipline, and the image of flawlessness. It was a family that always showed up together, smiled together, and moved like a single polished machine. Now the image is cracking in real time, and it's worse than ever. When Brooklyn accused his parents of putting the brand back on before his family, he wasn't just venting out his emotions, but directly challenging the foundation of one of the most carefully constructed empires of the last 25 years. According to Brooklyn, the pressure to protect that image started much earlier. He described growing up with constant anxiety, always aware that his actions weren't just personal choices but were being controlled by the brand. Whatever he wore and whatever he showed, whatever he said, everything mattered not just for him but for the empire that his family had built around their name. Every move Brooklyn made reflected on his family's name. He even tried modeling, photography, and acting, but nothing ever seemed to fully land because he was being sucked back by his own parents' criticisms. Quickly stamped him with the label Nepo Baby, a term that Brooklyn has openly said followed him everywhere. To the outside world, it looked like pure privilege, but to him, it was like he was never allowed to fail quietly, never allowed to make his own decisions, and just live his life. Now things have changed.
Brooklyn's experience was on a magnified level from mine. Everywhere I went around this school, people would turn their heads and stare at me, and they did the same to Brooklyn. With Brooklyn, it was like bees to honey, and with him, he didn't have the choice to be in the public eye because he was in the public eye before he was even born.
The Nicola effect. The context here matters a lot because after Nicola came into his life, she represented something completely different. Despite all the wealth and fame she had, her family always prioritized her privacy, emotional closeness, and independence over things. Brooklyn has repeatedly said that being with her opened his eyes to a new version of family life that he didn't even know existed. This was a life where it wasn't conditional, but it was based on pure love. Once he experiences that contrast, he says, there is no turning back. One of the most emotionally charged accusations in Brooklyn's statement had nothing to do with fashion, fame, or money. It was something to do with dogs. He claimed that during the devastating wildfires in Los Angeles, Nicola reached out to Victoria Beckham, asking for help rehoming displaced dogs. But, according to him, his mother refused to exist. For many fans, this shows that Victoria has no heart. And even though she was given a moment to show compassion, she chose brutality instead. Online reaction has been nothing short of impressive here, because there's a complete split. While most people sympathize with Brooklyn being the son who finally stands for himself, even after years of brutality, the other side sees his parents as the right ones, who gave them a lot of public support because they were the ones who raised him, gave him the platform, and even sacrificed a lot for him. And then there's Nicola Peltz, who became the lightning rod and the igniter in all this. Critics are accusing her of isolating Brooklyn or quietly encouraging the divide from his parents. They claim she's being blamed. On the other hand, the supporters argue that she's being blamed because she represents change, and outsiders are always easier targets than parents. Who do you think is wrong in this particular situation? Do you think Brooklyn's rage is understandable? Or do you think he is doing that just to get away from his parents? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the breakdown, please subscribe to the channel for more celebrity dramas.